Let's talk now, though, to Inaya Folarin Iman, writer and columnist at Spikes Online, coming to us this morning as a representative of a new organisation called Free Speech Champions. She's launching it today. It's supposed to be in order to safeguard free speech, particularly at universities where so much free speech has been stifled. Inaya, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. Tell us about this exciting new project, because it feels to me like there's a bit of a kickback now going on as far as those of us who feel that our free speech has been somewhat stunted lately.
Yes, absolutely. Free Speech Champions. It's an exciting new initiative set up by myself, but also with a diverse range of university students and recent graduates to really inspire the next generation about the importance of free speech. I mean, we've seen so many challenges and conversations over the last few years about what has been going on, not just on campus, but often in the digital arena and also in workspaces where, whether that's no platforming, safe spaces, censorship. I mean, there was a recent poll last year where 40% of students feel that they are self-censoring out of fear of their kind of future career. And we know that university is meant to be the space where, young people get exposed to a broad range of ideas, get to challenge themselves, get to refine their ideas. If they are being kind of exposed to a very narrow set of views, then they are having a much diminished civic and educational life. And I don't think that's very good for society. So Free Speech Champions hopes to create a network of champions across the country who will go out into schools and universities, host events, and really spread the word about why free speech is such a fundamental bedrock of our democratic society.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Because one of the things you raised there quite rightly is people do tend to stop talking about certain things, don't they? I mean, I've known people who are friends of mine who have said to me, I don't feel as if I can comfortably talk about this even in public, never mind actually at a centre of learning, where you would actually sort of take part in a discussion in a lecture group or something like that. But some people are now saying to me, I don't feel comfortable even talking about this when I'm out in the street.
Yes, and that is not a solid framework to build a society on. Free speech, as I said, is the bedrock of a democracy where we get exposed to different ideas, we can challenge one another, we can refine our ideas and understand and build relationships. And I think it's really having a detrimental impact on civic discourse, where we've seen so much of this polarization. And, even people feeling kind of compelled to lie, to not say things that they believe to be true out of fear of being sacked. And I don't think this is healthy.
Right.
And so, Free Speech Champions really hopes to be a direct response to that. So if you're a young person and want to stand up for free speech, check out freespeechchampions.com and join.
I hope you're going to be visiting Leicester University, because they were in the news last week, were they not? I think we made them one of the hits on Plank of the Week for basically deciding not to teach Chaucer anymore as part of an English literature course on the grounds that, it was not the right sort of thing to be learning about. And the guy who's in charge, the Chancellor or the Vice Chancellor of that university, doesn't call students anymore. He refers to them as citizens for change.
It's really shocking to see a lot of the kind of activist academics and things like that. That's just one instance. We've had so many. Amber Rudd, for a former MP, was kind of no platforms. We hear this in so many different instances, and we're not talking about fringe views here. We're often talking about the kind of suppressing of views that are widely held. And again, if the university space is meant to be the brain of our society and the institutions that develop the kind of next generation of the intellectual and cultural establishment, if they are not actually having an in-depth exposure to a real educational life, then I think that has a really detrimental impact on wider society.
Yes, and also if you tell people that they can't say certain things, and if they are perhaps things that are nasty or wrong or politically damaging or personally damaging, they're just going to resent that more. Whereas surely it's better for them to say the things that they want to say and then argue about it.
Absolutely, and it's one of the oldest, things in the book. If you suppress something, if you censor it, oftentimes it just moves underground. Oftentimes, it kind of festers somewhere else because it doesn't stop people from believing things. We want to be able to, in a responsible, in a mature society, be able to grapple with one another, be able to challenge one another, but do it with basic kind of civil values and not in this incredibly divisive, polarizing climate that we currently exist in when it comes to skepticism or dissent or views that don't fit a very narrow orthodoxy.
Yes.
And again, Free Speech Champions, it really hopes to be part of something that will really make a really significant impact in this area.
Yeah, because it seems, unfortunately, as though the real world has kind of echoed Twitter, which is the wrong way round as far as I'm concerned. I'd much rather Twitter actually occupied more of the space that the real world is in. But it seems as though that kind of Twitter divisiveness and polarisation has now kind of reached out into the mainstream, if you like.
Absolutely. And I think it's much harder, whatever people's views are on lockdown, the reality is that we have got the decimation of the public square. And so what that means is that often the other spaces, whether that was in the pub or, for some people, if you're religious, in church, or even, speaker's corner, these are spaces in the real world where we would actually experience human beings in a much more in-depth way. And now all we have to rely on to communicate with one another is a screen. And that's not a healthy way to really understand who people are and what they think and see them beyond just their kind of political labels. And so I think, hopefully we can revivify public life and the kind of public square as we open up the country as well.
Okay. And if anyone wants to find out more about it, Inaya, where can they go? Where can they find out about it?
freespeechchampions.com. You don't have to be a young person. Anyone of all ages who wants to organise around the defence of free speech, please join Free Speech Champions.
Excellent. Well, we certainly do that very thing. Inaya Folarin Iman there with the launch of Free Speech Champions, a great and worthy cause for everybody to get involved in. Some people, of course, make the mistake that free speech is about saying what you like and not facing any kind of consequences. That's not what free speech is. Free speech is something that you should be allowed to have, but if you say something which is either illegal, which is either libelous or any of those other things which cause damage, basically, you will have to face the consequences, but you should still be allowed to say it. That would be my position. I'm sure that would be lots of other people's position as well.